Welcome to DC Bureau, the Wall Street Journal's online political show. I'm Jerry Seib. The presidential campaign is surprisingly tense, surprisingly early. We're here to talk about all of that with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the Chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee, Congresswoman from Florida, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jerry.
You know, tough ads out there already from your side on Mitt Romney, his business record at Bain Capital, outsourcing of jobs, tax returns. Why has this gotten so negative so early?
Well, I really don't consider this negative. It's factual. I mean, Mitt Romney, with the small glimpse of tax returns that he's given us 1 year, he has a Swiss bank account, he has investments in the Caymans, he has a Bermuda corporation that he transferred to his wife's name the day before he became governor of Massachusetts, and those are all known tax havens, tax shelters. And so the question becomes, if he hasn't done that to avoid paying taxes he would have owed in the United States, then why are they there? What are they there for? And so getting a view of his tax returns for multiple years would answer those questions, and that's why major party candidates for president for decades have done it. His own father released multiple years of returns, President Obama, Vice President Biden, a dozen-year of returns, but not Mitt Romney. He needs to come clean. There's obviously something that he doesn't want people to see. And so that's why we are continually pounding.
You know, I guess to be fair, there's a recent study that said that 9 out of 10 ads on both sides have been negative or comparative rather than positive so far. So that seems to be the tenor of this campaign. The question...
Well, there's another thing, though, that's important to note. Mitt Romney has based his entire qualification for president and the experience that he has at Bain Capital is the reason that people should vote for him. So examining his entire record at Bain Capital is important. And so he said he left Bain Capital in 1999. Only last week the Boston Globe issued a deep investigation in which it was revealed that no, he didn't. That's simply not true. He was sole owner, CEO, and president of Bain until August of 2001. And so he needs to be held accountable for the job losses, the cuts, the offshoring, all of the activity that happened during that time. And if he doesn't want to be held accountable, if he says he wasn't there and had nothing to do with it, then it's pretty disturbing because he signed SEC documents that said that he was. So it can't be both.
How do you prevent the line of argument about Bain Capital that you're pursuing from being interpreted as an anti-business position for the party or the...
Well, because we celebrate success. We don't begrudge Mitt Romney or anyone else's success. But Mitt Romney is the one that put his experience at Bain Capital on the table. I mean, he is the one that is asking the American people to take a look at his private sector experience, that he is the fix-it guy. He's got the magic formula. And so we need to look at that record. It would normally a candidate for president who was the governor of a state, like Mitt Romney was, I mean, he was governor of Massachusetts, would be talking about their record as governor. But Mitt Romney doesn't talk about his record as governor because it wasn't very good. Well, 47th out of 50 in job creation and more jobs, manufacturing jobs, jobs lost at twice the national rate in manufacturing and cuts in education. And so it doesn't have a very good record. No wonder he doesn't talk about it.
Well, but I think part of that is that they would like the focus to be on this president's economic record, which is not so great either, they would argue. And so maybe that's the reason for lack of focus.
They can try to argue that, except that the facts really are clear that President Obama inherited, thanks to the failed policies of the past, the largest set of problems of any president since FDR. And the economy, who was hemorrhaging 750,000 jobs a month. And thanks to his policies, the Recovery Act for one, which put a tourniquet on that hemorrhage and allowed us to be able to pause and begin to get things turned around. And now we've had 28 straight months of job growth in the private sector, 4.4 million jobs created, and a resurgence in the manufacturing sector, jobs created there, first time since the 1990s, rescue of the American automobile industry, bringing our troops home from the war in Iraq, making sure that we make the kinds of investments in small businesses and the middle class through tax breaks that will help them thrive, and we can build the economy from the middle class out, instead of the trickle-down, tried and failed economics that Mitt Romney thinks we should go back to, that got us into the really worst economic disaster any of us have ever seen.
You know, I wonder, though, in terms of the tone of the campaign, if it's going to be a nasty 110 days or whatever is left between now and Election Day, whether that's a particular danger for the president, because he was the guy who was going to change the tone of political debate, and that's been hard to do. And if he was going to be the president who moved us into more of a post-partisan world, and that hasn't happened, isn't that a problem for him?
Well, I think President Obama deserves a lot of credit for trying. He certainly, at the outset of his presidency and right on through, has tried to get Republicans to work with him, to sit down around the table and compromise, to work together on the debt ceiling deal, on deficit reduction, on job creation. But they've made it very clear. The Republicans, through Mitch McConnell's statements, for example, made it very clear where their priorities are. They have no interest in working with him because that might make him successful. Mitch McConnell specifically said his #1 goal was to defeat Barack Obama. Mitt Romney, in my home state, when he won the primary in Florida, said, we've got to remember what this election is really about. And I thought he would say, getting the economy turned around or creating jobs. And he said, we have to remember what this election is really about, defeating Barack Obama. So it's the Republicans that have refused to come to the table and work together. President Obama and Democrats stand ready and willing and are eager to work with Republicans.
Let's step beyond the presidential race for a second. You're running the entire party, not just the presidential campaign, obviously, the House. Do you have a realistic chance of taking back the House? Because it doesn't look from the outside as if there's much of a shot there for Democrats.
Absolutely. We have the DCCC, led by my colleague Steve Israel, is got a program drive for 25. We have to win 25 seats to take the House back. We're well positioned to do that if you look at comparatively the fundraising of the DCCC versus the NRCC and individual candidates in key races. Our members, our candidates are outraising Republicans. The DCCC has lapped the field with fundraising compared to the NRCC. That's because that's a reflection of the confidence that our donors have, but also a reflection of the desire that our supporters have in wanting to continue to move this country in a direction that President Obama and Democrats have been pushing, fighting for the middle class and working families, and not the direction that the Republicans have proposed, because they've been really, they've got a full embrace and bear hug of the Tea Party extremists, and I think that's not what voters signed up for.
But if you look at the money numbers more deeply, in the last couple of months, Mitt Romney and the Republican National Committee have outraised the president and the Democratic National Committee, and right now the Republican Committee has about $30 million more in cash on hand than you do. Are you headed for a money problem this fall?
Well, what we've been doing, and we're so proud that we have 2.4 million donors and counting. Our average contribution is about $50.23.
23 cents counts,
yeah,
right?
it matters. It matters because you know what? When someone parts with 23 cents, that means that they're making an investment. They're saying to us, we care about making sure that the little guy has a voice, that we've got a president in the White House who's fighting for the middle class, and we've been in the process of standing up the most significant grassroots presidential campaign in history. And we're not doing the things the same old way that campaigns have always been done by Republicans, which is basically what Mitt Romney is doing is allowing a handful of billionaires to try to buy the White House. And we know this super PAC money is going to try to drown President Obama and congressional Democrats as well. And so we have a people-powered campaign. We know that this president is probably going to be the first incumbent president to be outspent by his challenger. And so we're making sure that on the ground we're doing the door knocks and the phone calls, and we have office openings. And as I travel the country, I see our volunteers and our neighborhood team leaders and our fellows and interns. They're doing a fantastic job. And I think that, although I think that the corporate money is the opaque, transparent, unaccountable corporate money is going to be massive on the other side, that our campaign, fueled by 98% of our contributors being less than $250, is going to carry.
But you're going to have a pretty good equalizer on the labor union side that levels out the super PAC money pretty effectively, doesn't it?
There is going to be no comparison in terms of the contributions made to Democrats from the presidential campaign on down to the hundreds of millions of dollars that a handful of billionaires are pouring into Republican campaigns, because it's very clear they know that President Obama, in pushing for Wall Street reform, in making sure that big banks and credit card companies can't run over consumers any longer, that's who he's been fighting for successfully, and that everybody deserves a fair shot, everybody deserves a fair shake, and everybody should be playing by the same set of rules. And there's a lot of really wealthy people that don't agree with that. And Mitt Romney is telling them, you know, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. And that's why those dollars are flowing his way.
I'm wondering if, when you step back from this campaign, does it look to you like either candidate, either presidential candidate, is building a mandate to govern? I mean, a campaign that's so much about what the other guy hasn't done doesn't seem to me to be the kind of campaign that's going to create a mandate.
Well, I think it depends on what you mean by mandate, because certainly with or without a mandate, you're able to, if you can build consensus, and if you have your finger on the pulse of what people care about, you can get lots of things accomplished. The Affordable Care Act was a huge deal. And, you know, I don't think, certainly President Obama campaigned on making sure we get access to affordable health care for everyone. But given the struggles that he had, the largest set of problems at once, and, you know, like I said, of any president since FDR, you know, passing landmark legislation like that, bringing our troops home from the misguided war in Iraq, rescuing the American automobile industry. President Obama has really made some hugely significant accomplishments. And because of his leadership, because of the way he's prioritized the issues that are important to Americans, and committed to focusing finally on building an economy that's meant to last and from the middle class out, I think that will, when he wins his re-election, will carry him into the next term.
Let me ask you finally about your home state of Florida,
yeah.
The Sunshine State. Seems to be a tough state for the president because, if nothing else, the housing crater hasn't entirely been filled yet. How does Florida look for Democrats right now?
Oh, I think Florida's looking good. I mean, it's the biggest battleground state.
There's a lot of money being spent there.
It's going to be a close race there, where, like it always is, never different. And we're going to go right through the next 110 days with the most significant ground game you've ever seen in a state. We've been there, the Obama campaign has, since 2007, never left, been organizing and mobilizing. And, you know, just look at housing, since that is a little bit of a drag on Florida's recovery. You know, President Obama has made a commitment and has allowed, you know, thousands of Floridians to be able to remain in their homes who are upside down, who would have faced foreclosure. And that's compared to Mitt Romney, who said we should just let the foreclosure crisis hit rock bottom and let investors come in and buy up those properties and sell them for a profit. And that's how we need to solve the problem. Mitt Romney wants to allow Medicare to end and turn it into a voucher program, and that would cost seniors in my state, and any senior on Medicare, an average of $6,000 more in premiums. You know, the priorities that are important to Floridians really have been championed by Barack Obama, and I think there's a huge contrast that will carry Barack Obama into the fall campaign and will result in a win for him in Florida.
I think Florida's going to be close. I think the whole campaign is going to be close. I hope we get to talk about it again over the next 4 months. I appreciate your time today. Thanks very much.